Hey guys, I hope all is well and I hope all is right in your world. Okay, so this is part 3 of day 10 of Ambipants in the UK trial when Depp sued the Sun and Dan Wootton. Again, she was just a witness. Her name was not on the defendant list at all. Okay, so where we were in part 2, she was trying to explain away how she why she was telling Johnny, I was not punching you, I was hitting you, and you were such a baby, and all that. She was trying to explain it all away. It was not the conversation. She was trying to keep him on track. She could not control the conversation, blah, blah, blah. And then they took a break for lunch. So that's where we cut off, and that's where we're going to pick up where they picked up after lunch. So once again, Miss Laws is Depp's attorney for the UK trial, and she was questioning Amber day 10. This was Amber's first day on the stand. So Ms. Laws asked, Ms. Heard, just before lunch, we had dealt with, or you had given an explanation for that part of the tape that I read out, and you heard as well. You were adamant on tape hitting Mr. Depp. So that is where we had to go, and then you gave your account of an incident in the bathroom. All right, that is where we are. We will come back to that incident because I think you dealt with that in your deposition as well. We will come back to that later. We will move on because something you said before lunch was that any violence in this relationship was in self-defense, and you've only ever used violence in self-defense in this relationship. All right, so those are two things. This is right, is it not? That is the summary of your account? Amber, yes. I'm going to suggest to you that it's completely wrong, is it not? Amber, I do not feel that it's wrong, no. What I'm talking about, I'm going to ask you about your arrest for domestic violence. Justice Nicol, what was the question about Ms. Heard's violence in her relationship? Ms. Laws, in a former relationship. And Justice Nicol, I thought you were talking about her relationship with Mr. Depp. Ms. Laws, yes, if I was not clear, I will make it clear. To Amber, you were saying before lunch that you had never used violence outside of the relationship with Mr. Depp. Amber, that is correct. Then moving on to your arrest for DV, and the arrest was for an assault, was it not? That was witnessed by 2 police officers at an airport? Amber, that's incorrect. It was witnessed. The argument I was having was witnessed by 1 police officer. A second officer arrived later. And Justice Nicol, sorry, the second officer? Amber, arrived later. Oh my God. Miss Laws, before we get to that, you had a neighbor. Were you living together? It is Miss Van Ree, is it not, that we are talking about? Amber, yes. Were you living together with her in Puerto Rico at any point? Amber, yes, when I was filming there. You had a neighbor called Colleen? Amber, no, Colleen was a wardrobe designer who dressed both Johnny and I and all the main characters in the movie, but I do not think she lived anywhere near me. And Justice Nicol, your question was about Puerto Rico? Miss Laws, yes, certainly, Miss Heard. You accepted that you lived together for a period of time with Miss Van Ree in Puerto Rico. And Justice Nicol, I do not understand. Did you agree with that? Amber, that we lived together? And Justice Nicol, no, that you lived together in Puerto Rico. Amber, yes, that's correct. Miss Laws, did a neighbor ever come to complain to you about the fact that you and Miss Van Ree would have constant loud screaming fights? Amber, absolutely not. Fights that were so loud, vivacious, and frequent that they proved problematic for your neighbors? Amber, absolutely not. Our neighbors were very friendly to us. We had them over, we had great time with them, and we lived in a very old building by ourselves except for the bottom floor. Your neighbors did not complain. Amber, never to me, and they seemed quite lovely. The next question is, did you have constant loud screaming fights which were so loud, vivacious, and frequent that they could have been a problem for the neighbors? Amber, absolutely not. And Justice Nicol, just a minute, you said no? Amber, absolutely not. Ms. Laws, I suggest that this was a volatile relationship you had with Miss Van Ree, and you would disagree? Amber, it was one of the most peaceful relationships I've ever heard of. We got along great. Ms. Laws, can I take you to file 5, tab 178A? Amber, yes, ma'am. Here is a court document that we also have a transcript of the hearing, which says the same thing. So I'm just going to use this for now. It shows the prosecution was declined in the case and it gave a reason. This is dated October 26, 2009. Do you have that document? Amber, September 14th? And Justice Nicol, yes, there are 2 dates. There is the date of the document, seems to be October 26, 2009, and then there's the date of VIO, September 14th, 2009. Amber, then it appears we're looking at the same one. Miss Laws, yes, date of violence would have been 14th of September. And Justice Nicol, is this violence or violation? Ms. Laws, I think it's violation the date of the offense. We are declining this case for the following reason. Should the victim choose to give a statement, so that is a document that was produced by the prosecution, yes? Amber, I suppose they produced it. Yes, in fact, I can take you to the transcript if I need to, but the same was said in court. Amber, okay. You would have heard that. It is not news to you that this is why they did not go ahead, is it? You know about it? Amber, no. To be clear, because you were asking me, I think are you referencing a couple of things that they chose not to press charges against me? Because not only was there not any proof or sign that it was offensive, Tassia was her first name, but also we were residents of California. Just so there is no doubt, let us go to the transcript of the hearing so we can be clear about what would have been heard. It says if you go around to tab 182 towards the back, you have the flick, Okay, Miss Laws. We can see here it is a female voice, and this is the transcript of what took place. Going a third down, a female voice is saying, the state is declining to file charges at this time. Otherwise, it could result in warrants. So what you were being told was that it was not necessarily the end of it that day. If they got a statement from Miss Van Ree within the next 2 years, you in fact had to be available to keep your address with the court just in case. That was what they were telling you, was it not? Amber, I suppose that's the procedure, yes. You suppose or not. Do you accept that? Amber, it appears to be what they're saying, yes. Oh my God, Amber, you were in the courtroom. We could hear your voice saying, yes, Your Honor, I understand. When that tape is being played, we can hear you say, I understand. That is exactly word for word what they said. It was up to Tassia to make a statement. And obviously she did not. You were still on the hook for 2 years. 2 years, Amber. Oh my God, it was not. She likes to spin such a tale. Oh my God. Okay, so Miss Laws, so when you have described what happened as you have been exonerated, Amber, I have been. And Justice Nickel, were you charged within 2 years? Amber, no, I was not. Ms. Laws, and you were not charged because Miss Van Ree did not want to press charges. Is that right? Is it not? Amber, I don't know why they did not. We just read it out. The assault was thought to be minimal. You were both, Amber, there was no assault. Question, you were both effectively not living in Washington and she did not want to press charges. That's what was explained? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, exonerated means that someone is turning around or the court is saying that you are not guilty. Do you see the difference between a prosecution not going ahead for lack of evidence because someone will not come forward and someone actually being found innocent? Do you see the difference? Amber, yes, but what it means is I was exonerated in the sense that charges were dropped, and even though they could have potentially refiled them, they chose not to do so, hence why I say exonerated, and also why I moved to get my record expunged. Amber trying to lawyer a lawyer. I love it. Ms. Laws, I think there was some behind the scenes. It was being suggested, not by you, but by Miss Van Ree, that when she came out to give a statement on your behalf, that in fact the arrest itself was a result of homophobic attitudes. Do you remember that? Amber, yes, I do. She made that statement shortly after my divorce proceedings when this information, although it had been private for years before, suddenly wound up in the news. I can take you to the article, but you seem to remember it, where Miss Van Ree was saying that the arrest appeared to be as a result of misogynist attitudes who appeared to be homophobic when they found out you two were partners. So the reference is to 2 officers being homophobic. Amber, I do not know what Miss Van Ree intended. I cannot speak to that. However, there was ultimately more than 1 officer involved in the incident, although only 1 was there and only 1 made the arrest. What? Ultimately, there was more than 1 officer involved, although only 1 was there and only 1 made the arrest. All right. And Justice Nickel, which deposition are we talking about? Ms. Laws, this is the deposition on 13th of August. I will show you exactly what you say in a moment. When you then indicate it was a male police officer that put you in handcuffs, is that right? Amber, that is right. I'm going to suggest that it was a bit of a shift as a result of some publicity that came to light, to which I'm going to take you from one of the arresting officers. Could you go? Mr. Injustice Nickel, just a moment, please. Sorry. Did you want to answer that question? Amber, I was going to ask Ms. Laws if I can put one of these binders away. Ms. Laws, yes, please. Pull file 11 away. Justice Nickel, do you need to keep file out? Okay, they're just figuring out what it is. Okay. Ms. Laws, right here, 6th of September 2016, just to put it into context so that we know the context of this chronologically. Miss Van Ree had indicated that the arrest of you was homophobic arrest because the officer had misogynist attitudes. It is after that this article appears. What we have at the bottom is a picture of an officer, Leonard, who was one of your arresting officers. Was he not? One of the officers who was there? Amber was not the arresting officer. She did show up later, and what Tessia said there was that there were hints of misogyny and homophobia. Ms. Laws, but she said the word they. Amber, I do not know. And Justice Nicol, are we helped by this, Ms. Laws? Ms. Laws, my lord, it's a small point, but... And Justice Nicol, well, I do think it's a rather small point. If you want to ask further questions, of course you may, but I'm beginning to feel the smallness of it is diminishing value. Oh my God. He said her arrest for DV on her previous partner was diminishing. It was too small. Okay. Ms. Laws, I take the point. There was one point then in the relation to this. If you can flick over to F1140, we can deal with the point fairly swiftly. The officer is basically saying she is not homophobic because she is a lesbian, but at the bottom. And Justice Nicol, well, now where is this going, Ms. Laws? Ms. Laws, there is a description of the actual incident at the very bottom. And Justice Nicol, but this is a description in the newspaper, not a description by a witness. Am I going to be helped by this? Ms. Laws, it depends if the witness agrees with the description. Clearly, if the witness does not, we can move on. And Justice Nicol, right. So where do you want me to look at? Ms. Laws, just the final paragraph. And Justice Nicol, although Tessia claims the incident was minor in this paragraph, Ms. Laws, that's right, and shows the actual property damage. A pendant was damaged during the scuffle. The documents also show that Tessia was extremely upset with you, so claim the responding cops. Is that accurate? Of course, Amber's not going to agree to this. Amber, no, Tessia was not upset with me at all. In fact, she tried to intervene immediately. She told the gentleman who arrested me that he was overreacting, and she tried to clarify, as did I, that we were having a verbal disagreement, and what he took as any sort of indication of physicality was misunderstood in the moment to him. To be honest, she just walked the opposite way. We had walked on a busy street. He had overheard us arguing verbally sometime before that in the airport when we were stuck on an escalator together, and we walked out on the busy street. We missed our van. We had been looking. Oh my God. And Justice Nicol, I have heard enough, Miss Heard. You disagree with your description of the account? Amber, totally. Ms. Laws, we can move on to May 27th, 2016. You can close your file and you can pick it back up, please. On May 27th, 2016, you made a statement to the world, did you not, about... Amber, sorry, wait a moment, please. Do I need another binder for this? Ms. Laws, no, you made a statement to the world, did you not, about what had happened in your marriage, yes or no? Amber, when? Ms. Laws, on May 27th, 2016, when you filed for the restraining order. Amber, are you referring to my court appearance? Ms. Laws, yes. Amber, to get the restraining order? Ms. Laws, yes, you were making a statement to the world, or not? Amber, I was just getting a restraining order. Ms. Laws, I wonder if we can play the clip. And Justice Nicol, just a minute. Is there a transcript of this? Ms. Laws, it's just a news report. It's actually what is shown on it. It's only about 30 seconds. And Justice Nicol, all right. And so then they show the clip. I'm assuming it's the TMZ one. Ms. Laws, when you went to the courthouse and you were applying for the restraining order, we can see that there was a significant amount of press interest, was there not? Amber, yes, there was. On the same day, and I can take you to it, do you remember the evidence given about two officers who attended Eastern Columbia Building on 21st of May? One of them have left a business card with you. Do you remember the evidence? Amber, I remember one of them. And Justice Nicol, is this Officer Saenz, who we've heard from earlier? Ms. Laws, yes, on the same day that business card, which had been handed to you, appeared in the news. Amber, I do not know. Ms. Laws, you do not know. With the reference in the article, I'm going to take you to it then. It's saying that you had claimed to have video footage of one of the beatings and how you had been offered money to keep quiet. And Justice Nicol, just a minute. Amber, I do not know what you're talking about. And Justice Nicol, just a minute. Was your answer you do not know? Amber, yes, I just do not know what the article she's referring. Ms. Laws, can you get file 5, please, tab 173? And Justice Nicol, what was the tab reference, please? 137. They're trying to figure it out. And Justice Nicol, Amber Heard claims DV. Amber, I have a different. Ms. Laws, we may be looking at the wrong tab. Oh, geez. Ms. Laws, I think a document may have just dropped. I think you have the right document. It is just that you cannot see it. It is an article, TMZ. Amber Heard claims DV and gets restraining order against Johnny Depp. Do you have that? Amber, yes, I do. Ms. Laws, We can see it is May 27th, 2016, and it has a photograph on page 1, and it reports on the restraining order application. Over relief, there is a business card of the police. Is that the card that was left by the officer? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, underneath, I'm just going to ask you if you leaked this information. Cops gave Amber this business card and told her to call if she wants to press charges. Did you leak that information? Amber, no. Just like an example earlier of how, the text messages, Johnny's assistant said, or some behalf. And Justice Nickel, the question misheard was, did you leak the business card? And you have said you did not? Amber, no. I gave the business card. And Justice Nickel, wait for the next question. Ms. Laws, did you, in fact, leak the fact that you had gotten a video of one of the beatings? Did you leak that fact? Amber, nope. Did you leak the fact that you were asking for a temporary restraining order, claiming that there was immediate threat of harm to you? And Justice Nickel, just a minute. We have seen a crowd outside when you were getting into the car. Was the temporary restraining order hearing a public hearing? Amber, no. But in LA, the courthouse is public property. So by the time I walked out, there was quite a crowd. Ms. Laws, I'm going to suggest that you leak that information to the press, and you also leaked the fact that there was going to be a restraining order. Amber, no, we had to give notice to Johnny's side legally, to Johnny's lawyers. My lawyers gave his lawyers notice that I was filing for the restraining order, and Laura Wasser, his divorce attorney, worked closely with TMZ throughout the proceedings, including leaking things all the time, to cast aspersions on my allegations. And Justice Nickel, you gave notice to Johnny's attorneys. And Justice Nickel, the claimant, as you were required to do? Amber, yes. TMZ has an office in the courthouse, and they also work closely with Laura Wasser, Johnny's attorney. They immediately put a story saying that the cops were not called. Then Jody asked me, Mr. Justice Nickel, just a minute. Amber, sure thing. Nickel, you have answered the question whether you leaked it, and you have answered. Amber, no. Justice Nickel, you say that you suspect that it was Jepp's attorney. Ms. Laws, I'm going to suggest that the card and the information came from either you or someone acting on your behalf. You disagree? Amber, I just don't know if it came from someone else. Ms. Laws, you don't know. Right. And Justice Nickel, just a moment. I had understood from your previous evidence, but correct me if I'm wrong, that as far as the first part of Ms. Law's question is concerned, whether it came from you personally, you say it did not. Amber, I say it did not. But then you went on to say that you do not know where it came from. Somebody else. Amber, right, because my publicist, Jody, at the time of the first TMZ article, saying no cops actually showed up to the penthouse and therefore I was lying, Jody, my publicist, asked me for the business card, which I understood I had to give to my team anyway. I gave her those business cards, so I cannot say whether someone acting on my behalf also shared the business cards to TMZ when they were calling me a liar and saying no cops came. So which is it? Is it Laura Wasser or is it Jody Gottlieb? Which one is it? I'm going with Jody. I'm going with Jody on that one. But you can't say it was absolutely Laura and say, well, it could have been Jody. Oh my fuck. Okay. Ms. Laws, I suggest that it is inconceivable that you would know whether it was leaked on your behalf, is it not? Amber, no, there was nothing to leak. Ms. Laws, can't I take you to file 6, please? F8. In fact, I do not know if you have these photographs. It's in the higher resolution photographs that were produced. And Justice Nickel, have you got that photograph? It is indeed F8. We're going to take a look at this right here. Have you got that? Amber, yes, your lordship. Ms. Laws, this is taken at the courthouse. Amber, this one? Yes. Ms. Laws, by and to? Amber, I don't know. Maybe my best friend who was there, or perhaps... Ms. Laws, you do not know. That I can ask you to compare it, please. Ms. Laws, I want you to keep that image in mind. You can put the file away. Ms. Laws, 99... but I can ask you to flip it over. It was taken, this photograph, do you agree, the very next day after the application of the restraining order? Amber, the picture's right here. Amber, no, I do not know when it was taken. Ms. Laws, you do not know. Amber, I would love to confirm because I do not think I really left the house the next day much. Ms. Laws, I'm going to suggest it was the next day, but we will come back to that because you were giving your evidence obviously into tomorrow. We can certainly, that there's no mark on your right cheek in that photograph, is there? Amber, I do not see it visible in this photograph, but I would again like to know when it was taken. Can you confirm that? And Justice Nickel, misheard. It is your evidence that it's being given, and if you do not know when J47 was taken, then that is as far as we can go at the moment. Amber, okay, all right. Ms. Laws, you see, I'm going to go through the events of the 21st of May, but just deal with this. In your declaration that you made in order to obtain the restraining order, do you remember that you claimed that you had been assaulted by Mr. Depp and that you were petrified of him? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, yes. Amber, I do. Ms. Laws, was that true? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, I suggest that both of these things were completely untrue. I suggest that you were not injured at all as a result of anything that happened on the night of May 21st. Amber, that is not true. Mr. Depp did not throw a phone at your face or head. Amber, Johnny threw the phone right at my face and head. Oh, so now it's your face and head. Well, I guess they're connected, but they didn't happen at two separate occasions. Standing not too many feet away from me, so he hit me and pulled my hair and grabbed my hair. That was just one of the many, many incidences. Ms. Laws, well, we'll come to the detail of what you say at various points about that incident. It turns out that a number of people saw you. So 2 officers on the night of the incident, and then a number of people over the next week who did not see you with any injury whatsoever. Do you say they were all lying about that? Amber, I have no reason to call anyone a liar. I cannot speak to what they saw. Ms. Laws, far from being petrified of Mr. Depp, as you swore in the declaration, that you were in fact, the truth of the matter was that in between the 21st of May, so after he left Eastern Columbia, until the 27th, you were contacting him on the phone. And Justice Nicol, you were contacting Mr. Depp on the phone. Ms. Laws, first of all, is that correct? Do you remember that? Amber, yes, I was attempting to. Ms. Laws, and that you were not displaying any signs of being fearful of him in any of those texts. Amber, the text, no. Those are text messages, and I was trying to get a hold of him. Ms. Laws, I think with the restraining order, in fact, you had it extended after it came to an end, did you not? Amber, no. Ms. Laws, no. Did you not apply for an extension? Amber, I do not believe so. Ms. Laws, when do you think it ended? Amber, I'm not sure, to be honest. I know that by nature it is temporary. It's called a temporary restraining order, and I know that you have to apply and go through a separate legal proceeding in order to get what I believe they call a permanent restraining order. Ms. Laws, we know it has already been referred to in this trial that the fact that there were a number of communications between yourself and Mr. Depp between the 21st and the 27th of May, but also after May 27th, right up until the divorce was finalized. Amber, yeah. Mr. Justice Nicol, just a minute. Communications, yes. Fuck. Ms. Laws, and indeed, we have heard, flew out to meet up with him on the 27th of July when the restraining order was still in place. Amber, I do not know if I flew there alone. I might have gone there with a person I was seeing at the time, but it would have been around that time. Oh my, okay, so pause right there. Christian Carino and Amber said that was for mediation. Amber said it was for mediation. And that's why her lawyer lost his shit because they wanted, legal and, I'm sorry, I just got myself in a tizzy. So Christian Carino said that he met Amber, he got a house for Amber and Johnny to have a chat, and they were actually looking like they were going to reconcile until they got back in the car and Johnny found out that she was with Muskie. Then, when Amber was asked about this in her deposition in 2016, her lawyer flipped the shits. He cracked it because the lawyers wanted to know what was said within this meeting, like what it was all about. And her lawyer kept saying, if it's about mediation, don't say anything, don't say anything. And now all of a sudden she's saying she went to San Francisco with a person she was seeing at the time. How many stories could revolve around one meeting? How many stories? And people want to say she's telling the truth. That's fine. They're entitled to it. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm saying mine. But someone needs to explain to me how 3 different things can be true simultaneously. In this manner. Anyway, we move on. That's my rant on that. Ms. Laws, you flew out to meet up with him. Amber, not entirely, not only to meet up with him, but I did make a point of seeing him. And Justice Nicol, you did meet with him? Amber, yes, I did. Ms. Laws, you wanted to meet with him. And Justice Nicol, is this what I've already heard about the meeting in San Francisco? Amber, yes. And Justice Nicol, that is where it took place, was it? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, you knew full well that there was a restraining order out because you can hear on the tape reference, so you accept that, do you not? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, that you knew, and the restraining order was still in place because you were claiming to be petrified of him. Amber, the restraining order was in place because I had made a statement when I got my temporary restraining order. Ms. Laws, you see, the restraining order was extended, and I will show you the document in a moment. Amber, it's news to me. I did not know. Ms. Laws, it's news to you? Amber, news to me that it was extended. I did not know that. Ms. Laws, so do we take it by the 27th July you were no longer petrified of him? Amber, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I did not know the restraining order was extended. Ms. Laws, so you obtained the restraining order May 17th. Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, how long did you think it was going to last? And Justice Nicol, 17th of May? Ms. Laws, sorry, the 27th of May, my mistake. How long did you think it was for? Amber, I do not recall. Ms. Laws, you do not know? Amber, I do not recall. Ms. Laws, are you saying you were petrified when you saw him in July? Amber, I've always had a relationship with two people, or at least how I say it and how Johnny described it. One was with Johnny, and I loved Johnny, and I was not terrified of Johnny as Johnny. I loved him. I was terrified of the monster. The monster was almost a third party in this relationship, one that he identified early on, and I came to know as the other half of my relationship, and it is the monster that I was terrified of. Ms. Laws, what I'm going to suggest to you then is this, and I will not keep repeating it, but I will deal with it now as you have raised the question. If on July 22nd you were terrified of even a part of Mr. Depp's character, would you not have met up with him at all, with someone or with anyone? Would you, if that was the truth? Do you agree or not? Amber, of course not. Of course I wouldn't meet up with him. I had been married to him just months prior. I lived in a relationship and sought to save the relationship at the time. And there we have it. She went to San Francisco, seemingly with someone else, seemingly with Muskie, to save the relationship. Okay, Injustice Nickel. Ms. Depp, you have answered that. Do you not agree with that? Thank you, Ms. Laws. Back to the 27th. The reality is that we know you were basing the application upon two incidences that you were pleading. So 21st of May and 21st of April. Wait, Amber, that is correct. Ms. Laws, we also know, just going back through the chronologically of it, before the 21st of May, so before the incident that brought about the application for the restraining order, on May 18th, do you remember? You may not remember the date at all. That before May 21st, so in the period between those two incidences, your birthday celebration and then the final incident at Eastern Columbia Building, you actually spoke with a matrimonial lawyer called Susan Weisner. And Justice Nickel, just a minute. Give me the name, please. Ms. Laws, Susan Weisner. Amber, I did not meet with her. I spoke to her briefly on the phone as an anonymous Jane Doe because I was seeking advice as to whether or not I could legally change my name. This is a woman who has changed her name willy-nilly from Van Reed to Depp back to her. She knows she can legally change her name. She's not a dum-dum. Well, she's not a dum-dum. She knows she can do these things. She was trying to figure out how to get all Johnny's shit. That's what she, in my own humble opinion, is just me. In my opinion. Ms. Laws, you do not need to tell me what the advice that you were seeking was, but you spoke to her briefly on the phone anonymously? Amber, that is correct. Ms. Laws, by the 21st of May, you were taking steps in preparation for a separation from Mr. Depp, even if they were just primarily. That is what that was about? Amber, I'm not sure I would characterize it as that. I was trying to find the resolve to leave him, but more practically speaking, as I mentioned before, that was not why I spoke to the family attorney. I spoke to anonymously. I spoke to her for 5 minutes about a different matter. So if you want to change the locks, we take it that you want to keep someone from entering the property, yes? Amber, yes, that's correct. Ms. Laws, by the 21st of May, you had not in fact seen Mr. Depp for several weeks. Amber, yeah? So things were not looking very good between the two of you. And Justice Nickel, by 21st of May, Ms. Laws, Mr. Depp since the birthday celebration on May 21st. Nickel, since the birthday on 21st of April, did you agree with that? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, so by the time he came over to the apartment, you were making preparations in any way for a separation from him? Amber, emotionally, yes. You knew he was coming over because you had a text contact between the two of you? Amber, yes. Was Raquel Pennington already in your apartment? Amber, no. And Justice Nickel, was Raquel Pennington, at what stage are you asking? Ms. Laws, before Mr. Depp arrived. Amber, no, she was in penthouse 5. So technically, here's the thing. Technically, she was. Because they're all connected. It's one big giant maze. So technically, she was. Amber says, no, she was in penthouse 5. Ms. Laws, you smiled as if you have heard the suggestion before. Oh, she was smiling. Amber, I was not smiling. Ms. Laws, you were not? I'm going to suggest that she was already in your apartment by the time he arrived. Amber, no, he was not. I was alone in penthouse 3. And Justice Nickel, just a minute, please. Yes, Ms. Laws, I'm trying to keep my desk as clear as possible. Ms. Laws, put the file away. If you could get out, please file 3. Before I deal with this, what I'm about to take you to, just so that you know the purpose of the question, is that I'm going to suggest to you that your allegations about what happened on May 21st are characteristic of all your allegations, and that your account grows and changes with the telling. Do you agree or not? Amber, no. Ms. Laws, and that is because you were lying. Amber, absolutely not. Ms. Laws, I'm going to take you to the divorce declaration, then your deposition, and then what you say happened, all right? It may take a little time. I'm not going to do it with every incident, but I'm just going to start off with this incident so that you understand the point. If I could take you, please, to file 3. First of all, the divorce declaration, which is dated May 26th. Okay, they're just figuring out things. Okay, Ms. Laws, dealing with paragraph 9, please. So paragraph 9, the next time you saw Mr. Depp was on May 21st. He arrived at the Broadway residence. And Justice Nicol, now I have understood correctly that this is the declaration for the temporary restraining order? Ms. Laws, yes. And Justice Nicol, effectively the application for the TVRO. Ms. Laws, yes. And it is dated the 26th of May. Ms. Laws to Amber, are you giving the impression that your friends were in the apartment or not? Amber, they were in the adjacent connecting apartment. Ms. Laws, paragraph 11, Johnny was becoming increasingly enraged. In fact, I have missed out a part. We were having a peaceful conversation in our living room as he momentarily seemed distracted by Raquel's entrance. That is your account here. Moving on then to the next account that you give, which is in your deposition. I completely forgot about that. We were having a peaceful conversation in our living room as he momentarily seemed distracted by Raquel's entrance. So they weren't arguing, they were having a peaceful conversation. At the very beginning of all this, I forgot about this, son of a bitch. They were having a peaceful conversation and Raquel walked in. But I thought the door was locked, Rocky. How would Rocky walk in if the door was locked? Aha, because she was always there. And Justice Nicol, this is deposition on the 13th of August, 2016. Ms. Laws, that is right, in Los Angeles. And Justice Nicol, because is in Los Angeles, this is really a question for you, Ms. Heard. This was a deposition that you gave in the course of your divorce proceedings, was it? Amber, yes, my lord. Ms. Laws, my lord, it is in the title of the document, page 1. Ms. Laws, if I could ask you to go to F263, please. Now, do you have that page? Amber, yes, I do. Then to make it a little more complicated, in the top right-hand corner of each of the squares, you will have a small number. Can you see that? Amber, yes. I'm going to ask you to go to the right-hand corner, first of all, page 303. It is then that you actually deal with the incident. And Justice Nicol, this is, I think, the bottom left. Ms. Laws, bottom left. Then she goes to Amber. In summary, and I will read it out to you. What I'm suggesting is that you give a lot more detail and becomes a different story of incident. Let's have a look. At top of page 303, he grabbed the phone from me, and then before he went upstairs, he started to go upstairs. So this bit I was going to ask you about, that is putting it in context. You were dealing with the point. You have said he has thrown the phone, but not at you. You said he started to go upstairs, and I had the phone in my hand again. All of my friends, and you go on to say, they are very scared of you being alone in a room with him when things go wrong. Was anyone with you that day? I think you have confirmed that no one was with you that day in the apartment. Amber, I confirm that no one was there in the apartment. Ms. Laws, when you were working things out, Johnny, you hit me in the eye and it felt like my eye. Pause there for a second. Have you added in here this part of your deposition? 1, that he threw the phone on the sofa. 2, and that the incident involved him going upstairs. Then you have him coming back downstairs to get the phone back off you. Then throwing it directly at you, so you were essentially, he threw the phone twice, yes? Amber, only once at my face. Ms. Laws, once at your face. If he was doing it as you say, which is pulling his arm straight back and throwing it directly at you, how far away is from you? Amber, maybe 6 feet. Ms. Laws, so where was the phone? And Justice Nicol, this is when he threw the phone and hit you? Amber, at my face, yes. Ms. Laws, he was 6 feet away. Amber, yes, maybe 8. I'm bad at guessing exact distances, but about 6 to 8 feet. Ms. Laws, you had no time to cover your face or head. It just happened so quickly. Amber, no, I guess I just not expect for him to do it in that way. You know, it happened very slowly in that moment, but still happened very quickly in real life. I remember him pulling his arm back. It appeared to be that he threw it the way that I've seen baseball players in movies throw a baseball. It was violent. It looked as though he was throwing it as hard as he could, and I did not move. You would move instinctively. Okay, here's the thing. Instinctively, you would put your hands up. Your body's first reaction is self-preservation. You're not just going to sit there and let it hit you unless you wanted it to hit you. And even then you would flinch, I feel. Okay. Ms. Laws, sorry. So you did not have time. Amber, to block it. I thought it popped my eye out when it landed. And here we go. There was no popping out of the eyes in the VA. Why? Why? If Johnny popped your eye out, I want to hear about it. I want to hear about it. Ms. Laws, when we deal with the aftermath of having thrown the phone at you, do you remember in your declaration, you essentially said that he grabbed and hit you? Can we have a look at your deposition and see what you said about it? If you flick over to F266, bottom right-hand corner, do you have that page? Amber, I do. Then in the top right corner, it says 314. So if we start the sentence in the bottom of 313, you were saying, you start crying, he approaches, feeling him approach. I don't know if he anticipates. It's like yanking me from side to side with my hair. And you were standing at this time. He has pulled my hair out from your head. Oh, sorry. Has he pulled any hair out from your head? He's still holding on to my head at this time. Let's see how hard I hit you. Then you say, just to finish off, please help. You're saying call 911. I'm screaming for help. And Justice Nicole is like, where the fuck is that? Ms. Laws, it's 315. You have to go from the top right to the bottom left, and the phone is somewhere where you do not know. It has bounced off. Guest security is somewhere. You are screaming. You had already texted Rocky, so that is the end of it. Pause there. So what you appear to be vague about is whether, in fact, any assault continued whereby he was grabbing your hair or helping you up. Amber, sorry, what is the question? Ms. Laws, do you even remember whether he was grabbing your hair or helped you up? What is your account on that? Amber, it was like he was pulling me off the couch. I just could not remember if my feet hit the floor before he had finally yanked me off the couch, or if I was yanked solely off the couch by him by my hair. Ms. Laws, you could not say whether he was hitting you at all after grabbing your hair in your deposition. Amber, that is not true. Johnny, is quite a bit bigger than me, and he wears those heavy rings on all of his fingers and made a habit of doing so. And when he would grab me by the hair, which was what he did especially in the last year and a half of our marriage, a lot, when that hand full of those big heavy metal rings lands on your skull, it makes quite an impact. And whether he intends for that to be a hit in of itself, or if he's simply trying to grab my head, it still feels like an impact. And the same with my chin. He kept trying to hold my chin, presumably to what it sounded like. It felt what it sounded like. It felt like kind of taunt. How much damage had he really done to me? Which was also something that he did at that time quite a bit. He had one hand on my hair, and I was trying to pull my face away so that he could not land any more blows on my face, and squeezing my chin, and I was trying to move it around, and that's when I was trying to articulate in the deposition as the ambiguity of some of those blows or hits. Oh my God. Ms. Laws, and all of the accounts you gave, and we can go through them, but if you agree, I need not go back to them. You gave several accounts of this incident in your divorce declaration, libel declaration, amended defense. In your statement, there was a number of documents where you said you had to go over this. Amber, yes, ma'am. And in each one of them, I'm going to suggest you say the same, that essentially Rocky came in while you were still in an altercation, according to you, with Mr. Depp, and you only managed to escape from him after Rocky came in. And Justice Nicole, just a minute. Do you agree? Amber, yes, absolutely. My account has not changed at all throughout any of these. Guys, I did a whole breakdown of this back in 2021. I broke down every single incident and all the changing stories that happened. I'm going to link that here for the May 21st incident. Ms. Laws, you see, you said the same thing about Rocky coming in before it all ended, but Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, I will take you to the statement if I need to, but Rocky says when she came in, you were both 12 feet apart. Amber, it might be what she said. Ms. Laws, was that true? Amber, there was quite a bit of distance between when you hear the door open. There was a long, narrow hallway in which you cannot see the rest of the apartment. And you have to first of all get in the door, and then you have to run down the hallway and turn the corner. And then only when you clear the big kitchen island do you have any visible visual into the room. I heard the door. Johnny heard the door because he let go of my head temporarily. And Justice Nicole, go slower, please. I heard the door. Johnny heard the door. And then what do you say happened? Amber, his grip on my hair loosened. I recalled pushing away from him or where he was standing, and he separated from me as if to see who was coming into the apartment. And by that time, Rocky had entered the apartment and could actually see us, but it would take a few seconds before you could see the rest of the apartment. Ms. Laws, so in each of those accounts, what you have not said is that by the time you saw Rocky, you were apart. But that is the truth, isn't it? Amber, I do not recall exactly how far apart we were. Ms. Laws, you were shifting your account to coincide with what she said about it now. Amber, I've never shifted my account from day one till now, as you can see. No, we can't. Ms. Laws, I have just suggested to you how you have shifted your account, but we will move on. Amber, forgive me, I do not see. Ms. Laws, we can move on. We can agree, can we not, on your account that nobody actually witnessed Mr. Depp throwing the phone at you. Amber, I believe it was just Johnny that saw the throw. I believe it was just Johnny that saw him throw the phone. Ms. Laws, no one witnessed it? Amber, Johnny did. Miss Laws, are you lying about that? You are lying about that, are you not? Amber, no ma'am. I will deal with this very swiftly. The reality of what went on, I'm going to suggest to you. I appreciate you do not agree, but I will give you the opportunity to say whether any of this is correct or not. Is it that an argument started about the fact that some feces was left behind on the bed? I will not get into those things at this stage. And Kevin Murphy was called. We have heard about, and you would agree with that. Amber, yes. Saws. Kevin Murphy was confirming that you had said to him it had all been a prank, that you were... And Justice Nickel, just a minute, do you agree with that? Amber, no, Mr. Murphy did not say that to me on the phone. We were on speakerphone, but only when Johnny took the phone and started speaking to Mr. Murphy did Johnny suggest that, and Mr. Murphy made a vague blanket agreement with whatever Johnny said. He said, whatever, you know, whatever you say, something to that effect, and then hung up. Ms. Laws, I suggest it's just a lie, is it not? Amber, absolutely not. Well, we went through the text messages. I'm also going to put my timeline of text messages here because you can see the progression. You can see everyone she called, everyone, all the conversations. I put it in a tiny little timeline bow for everyone to see. I'll put it in the link here. Ms. Laws, you have just made that up. In fact, later parts of your account, so by the time you give your deposition, in fact, you indicate that Mr. Depp did throw his phone on the sofa, but that was the first thing he did. Then we know you say it happened. I'm going to suggest that he did throw the phone on the sofa or towards the sofa, but not at you, and only once. Do you agree? And Justice Nickel, just a minute. You say that he did throw the phone at you? Amber, yes, he did both. I was limited to the amount of words that we could use in the declaration. That was my understanding for the initial TR. Ms. Laws, in that declaration, you miss out details, but you also miss out incidences. Do you not? You just rely on two? Amber, I do not miss out anything. I only needed to list the most recent ones. Ms. Laws, when security came in, you were screaming and shouting, stop hitting me, and then changed to, don't hit me again. Justice Nickel, just a minute. Did you scream, don't hit me? Amber, words to that effect. And Justice Nickel, did you scream, don't hit me again? Amber, oh yeah, don't hit me again. I think I said that to Jerry. I think I said to Jerry that I believe if he hits me again, I'm going to call the cops. Something to that effect. That was only after I saw Jerry come in. Ms. Laws, you were pretending that you were being hit, and when they were in, you shifted to never hit me again, did you not? Amber, which question are you asking me? And Justice, were you pretending that you had been hit? Amber, no, I hadn't been hit. Ms. Laws, Mr. Depp did not cause any damage whatsoever in that penthouse, did he? Nothing. Amber, it's absolutely untrue. He caused damage in multiple apartments and my face. Ms. Laws, Sean Bett is lying when he said there was not any damage done. And Justice, just a minute. When you asked a moment ago that Mr. Depp did not cause any damage in the penthouse, are you now talking about property damage? Ms. Laws, any damage to the property. So he did not assault you. I thought I had dealt with that, but let me make it clear. I think you disagree. He did not cause any damage at all, and I think you disagree with that. Do you not? Amber, he did both. He did a significant amount of damage to the property as well. Ms. Laws, and then after he left, you, Ms. Pennington, and Mr. Drew were quite busy, were you not? Amber, I do not know what you mean by that. Ms. Laws, you call your publicist and you call your lawyer, do you not? Amber, I believe I called them both that night. Ms. Laws, this was before the police arrived. Amber, I do not recall when I called. It's all in the timeline, guys. Check out the timeline. Ms. Laws, we can look at your phone records, but I will give you the opportunity to think about it again. You were on the phone to your publicist and the lawyer before the police arrived, were you not? Amber, I do not recall the sequence of calls. Ms. Laws, I will take it to you then. Amber, okay. They're just figuring out tabs. Ms. Laws, these are texts between Ms. Pennington and Io Tillett Wright, because at that point, you know that after you called out on the phone, call 911, Io Tillett Wright called the police. Amber, yes. And Justice Nickel, these are text messages of some kind. Ms. Laws, these are text messages between Ms. Pennington and Io Tillett Wright. What you can see here, if we just look at this, we do not need to look at all of them, is that on 21st of May, it says 8:16, about a fifth of the way down. Are you at Eastern? JD attacking Amber. She told me to call 911. I'm doing it. And Justice Nickel, just a minute. I'm sorry. This is, yes, JD attacking Amber. She told me I'm doing it. Okay. Ms. Laws, so that is Mr. Tillett Wright on the right. Ms. Pennington says, call me. Mr. Wright says, does she have her phone with her? Ms. Pennington says, yes, she is talking to her lawyer. Mr. Tillett Wright saying, the cops have her number. And there is a question, are they indeed coming? Does that jog your memory? Amber, yes. Thank you. In relation to your publicist then, do I need to go to any documents? Does that jog your memory that you were also on the phone to your publicist? Amber, I have no, again, I do not know who I called. Ms. Laws, all right, let's go to file 2.1. Miss Laws, if my lawyer will just give me a moment, in fact, to put it in context, this is not your deposition. It is the deposition of Mr. Drew, who was in the other penthouse at the time. He is dealing with what is going on. In fact, can I take you to the statement? Flick back in the bottom right-hand corner. Yes, this is the statement of Mr. Drew. In fact, I have just found the reference, but it's easier to see in the statement than on the deposition. Can I ask you to have a look at paragraph 26? Rocky called Amber's lawyer. Ms. Laws, Rocky called Amber's lawyer, Samantha Spector, to ask her what we should do. Later, I greeted the police officers. So does that jog your memory? Amber, yes. So you had not yourself called the police, but you knew they were coming. Amber, at some point I was made aware of that shortly after. Ms. Laws, now, do you say that Sean Bett was lying when he indicated that Mr. Depp had not caused any damage to the penthouse? Amber, I hesitate to call anyone a liar, but I do know for a fact that Johnny did not have his own keys to the apartment to Penthouse 5. Penthouse 5 is not the apartment where he initially started to cause damage, but when he left, he not only went into Penthouse 5, but he had been let in by his security. And Justice Nickel, just a minute. I think with him, you were in Penthouse 3, is that right? Amber, I was in Penthouse 3. And Justice Nickel, so you're saying that Mr. Depp, after what you have described in Penthouse 3, went to Penthouse 5? Amber, yes, he smashed some of the things on his way out of Penthouse 3. He went into the hallway, and Sean Bett and Jerry Judge, his security team, I heard a loud bang in the hallway, and then I heard the keys rattling and later became aware from all of the damage that he had gone into Penthouse 5, which he had been let into. Amber, Penthouse 5, he did not have keys to, only security did, and Penthouse 5 was where I kept all my property. He went through Penthouse 5. Justice Nickel, just a minute. He went through Penthouse 5? Amber, and started smashing things. Penthouse 5 was only my property. It was where I kept my personal belongings, my wardrobe, my art, my personal effects, my office. And he went through Penthouse 5 to destroy everything he could. He punched all of the pictures on the walls. Miss Laws, I think the question was Sean Bett lying? I think as a result of what you have just said is the conclusion that you are really suggesting he might have been lying when he said there was no damage. Amber, I do not want to call anyone a liar, but I definitely know he would have been responsible for letting Johnny once again enter into the apartment to do damage. Ms. Laws, so you were suggesting he would have seen it? Amber, yes, I am. This is the whole point of you giving the long answer? Amber, that is exactly what I'm saying. Ms. Laws, so he must be lying. What about the 2 police officers who tuned up? They were lying as well? Amber, I believe it was 4 in total. Ms. Laws, you know the 2 I'm talking about, Sides and Hayden? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, the 2 who said they didn't see anything. Amber, they had to walk through a considerable amount of broken glass, spilled wine, which even Isaac talked about, damaged doors, broken sconces, also some of which I believe Isaac had said. I do not know why they would say what they said, but I know very well they had to walk through a considerable amount of damage. Okay, and now we have broken doors. We have damaged doors, we have damaged sconces, spilled wine, broken glass. But just a couple hours later, it's all cleaned up and everything's back on the counter and there's no fucking problem. So, and also, she obviously didn't take them through to Penthouse 5 because they didn't see anything. They didn't see any knocked over beads. They didn't see anything. Oh my God. Miss Laws, damage in the kitchen as well? Amber, yes. Miss Laws, I think Rocky Pennington has described that. Amber, tons of damage. Miss Laws, tons of damage. So in the kitchen, it would have been... And Justice Nickel, just a minute. Damage in the kitchen. Which kitchen to which apartment are we talking about now? Amber, fair question. Penthouse 3 in this instant? Question. So Penthouse 3's kitchen, you say, was damaged as well? Amber, yes. He walked out swinging a magnum-sized bottle of wine. He knocked over a lamp, a glass figurine, jars, these old vintage glass jars that were on the countertop, fruit baskets, dried pasta, things that are normally found in the kitchen, spilling wine throughout and using it as almost like a club of some sort to smash the door into Penthouse 1 that I believe he also entered. Miss Laws, so Penthouse 5 kitchen, glass everywhere. He was smashing? Amber, not in the kitchen of Penthouse 5. Miss Laws, not in the kitchen. Amber, well, she was going to say that he damaged the kitchen in Penthouse 5. She was going to say it. I am convinced of it. And Justice Nickel, just a minute. I think you may be at a cross purposes here. As I have understood it, but Miss Heard will correct me if I'm wrong, the damage in the kitchen she was describing was the kitchen of Penthouse 3. Ms. Laws, thank you, my lord. I was just checking what you were saying. So let us stick with penthouse 3, which is where you say Mr. Depp were that night together. In penthouse 3, there was damage in the kitchen, glass everywhere over the kitchen cabinet, the worktop. Sorry, Amber, I do not know how much glass was on the worktop in the kitchen. There was glass on the floor in the living room and one on the surfaces of the end table. There was also a lamp that was not functional. It was out of use, but it was kind of there for decorative reasons. He hit at least one glass in the kitchen, but I think most of that glass was on the floor. Is she diminishing damage here? I think she might be. Ms. Laws, can I go through a list? It might be easier if I go through the list and you can tell me if there was anything additional. Amber, of course. Ms. Laws, on the kitchen island, there were candles and fruit, glass jars and vases, and Mr. Depp was hitting out at everything with the wine bottle, smashing it all off. Fruit on the floor, glass bottles, flowers smashed. Is that correct? Amber, yes, that sounds like it. Ms. Laws, because that is exactly what Raquel Pennington said in her deposition, and you have put her up saying that you have not? You have put her up to saying that, have you not? Amber, of course not. Ms. Laws, as a result of the description of all the damage, all three of you, in order to maintain it, have to say the officers must have seen that damage because it would be hard to miss. Amber, are you asking me? Ms. Laws, yep. Amber, yes, it seems like it would be very hard to miss. Ms. Laws, and do you agree that Raquel Pennington, I will take you to it if I need to, indicated, as did Josh Drew, that the officers saw the damage not just in the hallway but in the kitchen? Amber, are you asking me if they saw it? Sorry. Ms. Laws, first of all, 2 questions. You are quite right. Are you saying, and I think you are, that the fact that the officers saw the damage in the kitchen? Amber, I'm not saying I cannot imagine how they did not. They had to walk on it. Ms. Laws, you do know that Raquel Pennington and Mr. Drew are saying that the officers saw everything, all the damage? I will take you. And Justice Nicol, Ms. Laws, either those witnesses are saying that or they are not, but I'm not sure it's helpful to ask Ms. Heard if they are saying it. Ms. Laws, the suggestion is that they have all got their heads together. And Justice Nicol, that is a different point. Certainly you can put to that, Ms. Heard, that she has got her heads together with. Ms. Laws, I will put it that way, thank you. I'm going to suggest that you and Raquel Pennington and Mr. Drew have got your heads together and come up with a very graphic scene of damage throughout Penthouse 3 and in Penthouse 5. Do you agree with that or not? Are you lying about it? Amber, absolutely not. No. Ms. Laws, and the fact that all of you have said that the officers must have seen it, which I suggest is a lie. Amber, I cannot imagine how they did not see it. I was there. Ms. Laws, and all of you have elaborated on a conversation that took place in the apartment. And I will come to what you have to say now, if I may. But you answer, you have elaborated. Have you lied about it? What happened? Amber, absolutely not. Ms. Laws, my lord, this is a very short excerpt from a deposition clip on the 13th of August dealing with what Ms. Heard said about conversations. And Justice Nicol, which year, please? Ms. Laws, 13th of August, 2018. And Justice Nicol, so this is a deposition in the Virginia libel proceedings? Ms. Laws, yes. Amber, I have not had a deposition for the Virginia case. I'm sorry. Ms. Laws, I'm sorry. Let me just check. In fact, it's the 13th of August, 2016. My mistake, and its relation to the divorce, so it was limited, I correct myself, to April and May, and it touched upon other incidences. It is in the context of you being asked about the 21st of May that I'm going to play you a small clip. My lord, can we follow it? And then they played the recording to the court. Ms. Laws, thank you. That is all lies, is it not? You did not say anything like that to either of the officers, did you? Amber, are you asking me if I said that to the officers? Ms. Laws, you have just indicated what the conversation was between yourself and one of the officers. Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, that was all a lie. Every single thing that you have just said is in there, is it not? Amber, absolutely not. That is exactly what I said to them. Ms. Laws, you heard the evidence of the officer. Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, you did not say anything like that to them. They did not mention anything about your face. They did not say you looked hurt. None of this was asked of the officer, who simply said that you did not look injured. Both officers say that. Amber, I can only testify to what happened to me and what they said to me. Ms. Laws, would you go so far as say one of them said something looked wrong and it seemed unsafe? Amber, he did, but to be honest, I can't remember if it was the male or the female officer. They gave an indication to me that I looked hurt and I looked upset and it seemed unsafe, it either seemed unsafe or in order to make sure it was safe, they had to check the apartment. They had to check every room in every apartment, and I believe Josh showed them around. So an indication is not the same as a verbal confirmation. Ms. Laws, so the officers must be lying. They must be. Amber, I really do not want to call anyone a liar. Ms. Laws, but there's no room for mistake, is there? There are two completely different accounts. Amber, it appears that they contradict one another, but I'm still uncomfortable calling anyone a liar. Ms. Laws, they contradict you, do they not? Amber, I contradict them, they contradict me. The accounts are contradictory. Oh my God. Ms. Laws, you have Josh Drew as well lying on your behalf, saying that he showed the officers around and pointed out the damage to them. Amber, he did. Ms. Laws, that's a total lie, is it not? Amber, absolutely not. Ms. Laws, you see, the female officer was the one who spoke to you, and this is clearly something you would remember. It must be the first time that you had ever spoken to a police officer in these sort of circumstances. And Justice Nicol, is that a question? Ms. Laws, I will put it this way. It must have been a memorable event when the police arrived. Amber, it was both memorable and highly dramatic. Oh, dramatic. Ms. Laws, you will remember that the female officer made eye contact with you in the hallway where there was quite bright light. Do you remember that? Amber, I do not remember exactly where we were. I do not think she spoke to me either. What? I do not remember exactly where we were. I do not think she spoke to me other than to ask if I was misheard or the person that the call was made about. To be honest, I cannot recall. Then we walked into, she asked if I could speak in private. I believe I asked if Raquel could come with me. I was feeling very upset and unsafe. And she said, okay. But Raquel, when we went into Penthouse 3, gave us some space or some distance. And Justice Nicol, just a minute. You asked for Rocky to come with you and the officer agreed? That doesn't sound right, because what if Rocky is the actual perpetrator? What if Rocky is the perpetrator? Nope. Nah. Amber, yes. We went into Penthouse 3 into my apartment, which is a considerably different lighting situation. It's very dark in my main apartment, but we did have a chance to speak, and she kept asking me if I would give a statement. She indicated with her hand, and she gestured toward me and said, now, I can tell you're upset. I want you to be safe. I can tell it's unsafe. Something to that effect, and then told me that all I would have to do is give a statement, but she could not do anything unless I gave a statement. Ms. Laws, sounds like it's the female officer who was telling you that this seemed unsafe. Those were the words on the... Amber, yes, but I do not know if the male officer also said that, or if that he was the one that indicated to me initially before I went into the apartment with the female officer. Oh my God. Ms. Laws, so it might have been the male or it might have been the female. You don't know? Amber, that's not what I just said. Let me clarify. And Justice Nicol, she said it might have been the male officer, or it might have been the female officer, or it might have been both. Amber, yes, that's what I said. Ms. Laws, or it might have been neither of them. Amber, no, that's not true. Ms. Laws, do you remember this, or are you just making it up as you go along? Amber, I remember it. Yeah, because she remembered it when she made it up, and now she's just repeating it. Ms. Laws, who commented on your face, though? Because that must have been memorable. Someone was pointing at your face, an officer commenting on it, saying you looked hurt. Which one was that? Amber, it might have been the female officer, it might have been the male officer, or both, but most of my conversation was had with the female officer inside my apartment, standing in the foyer of Penthouse 3. Ms. Laws, this is all lies, is it not? Amber, no. Ms. Laws, the reason you cannot say and you keep changing is because you are making it up as you go along. Amber, I never changed my story and I've never made anything up. I have no need to. Ms. Laws, the officers did. In particular, the male officer did a thorough check. That was his evidence. In fact, that was his statement, which was agreed. He did have a thorough check. He went into the penthouse. He did not see any bottles, any broken glass, no signs of vandalism, no signs of injuries on you. That cannot be right if what you're saying is correct. Can it? Amber, it definitely contradicts what the reality was, but I believe that he gave the statement of 2016, if I'm not mistaken, in the divorce proceedings. Once this had made quite a bit of news in the media and the press, and you know, at the time I said I understood why they would say that after all. Ms. Laws, so they are lying because of the press is what you were effectively saying? Amber, I will repeat what I said to you earlier. I'm not here to call anyone a liar. I cannot speak to their motivations. Ms. Laws, are you saying they're telling a different story, the officers? Amber, I'm not saying that. I do not know what they said or why they said it. Ms. Laws, why did you just mention it about the article? Why did you just raise it if you're not seeking to cast doubt on what they were saying? Amber, I did not raise an article. Ms. Laws, just now you did. Why did you do that? Amber, I did not raise an article. I simply raised the timing. This is in 2016. Therefore, it would have been shortly after the news broke in general because it happened fairly quickly after I filed for the restraining order. And I had said, I imagine why it would be important if you were an officer, to clear this up on the record instead of having not done anything. Ms. Laws, so you are not prepared to say they were a liar because that is a very serious thing to say about a police officer, is it not? Justice Nicol, Ms. Laws, you have put your case to Ms. Heard and I have heard her response. But did you make sense of it? You heard her response, but how are you able to untangle it? And Justice Nicol, do you have a different brain than a lot of us? Do you? Oh my God. Ms. Laws, I will move on. Thank you. After the officers leave, it is quite clear, and I can take you to them if I need to. You are telling a number of people via text, mostly that you are going to file for divorce and apply for a restraining order. Do you remember doing that? Amber, filing or telling people? Ms. Laws, telling people. I can remind you as to who and take you to the text if necessary. I do not know if this is controversial. Do you remember texting that night Aaron Baroon? Amber, I do not remember texting Aaron. Ms. Laws, to say that you would file for a restraining order? Amber, I do not remember texting Aaron. Ms. Laws, I can come to that. Do you remember telling your father what you would be doing? Amber, I do not remember if I texted my father. Ms. Laws, do you remember texting your mother to say that you would be doing it? Amber, I do not remember specifically texting her. I'm sure I did. Ms. Laws, do you remember texting your assistant, Savannah McMillan? I love that. She just slipped that in. Assistant Savannah McMillan. You hear that, Homeland Security? Amber, Savannah is my friend and was my friend at the time. She was in the UK, I believe. Ms. Laws, do you remember texting her to say that she should not contact Rocky or anyone? It's in the text timeline, guys. Amber, I do not remember that specific text. Ms. Laws, I'm going to take you that because I'm going to ask you why you would say that to her. Ms. Laws, to identify 22nd of May is the date at the top. At 5:32, it says at the top, but underneath we can see the text. They start at the top, so we do not appear to have the beginning of them, but they start with Savannah McMillan asking if you are right. It was 4 a.m. I was asleep. Call me. It looks as though you have tried to contact her somewhere. Cannot talk about it. Please don't text Rocky or anyone. It's okay. Why did you not want her texting Rocky? You are all friends together, are you not? Amber, yes, in fact, Savannah was in the UK and I called. And Justice Nicol, just a minute. Savannah was in the UK. You were going to add something? Amber, I tried to call her right before Johnny threw the phone in my face. Yes, frantically. Fucking frantically. Ms. Laws, was it because you, Rocky, and Drew were all getting your heads together and smashing up the apartment and putting makeup on you to make it look like you were injured in preparation? And Justice Nicol, just a minute. The question is, were you smashing up the apartment? And then you said something about, Ms. Laws, putting makeup on yourself to make yourself look injured. Were you doing that? Amber, no, I have never done that. I was texting Savannah to answer your question. I was texting Savannah because Johnny became convinced or had re-expressed instead of coming over to talk about his recently deceased mother and the fact we had not spoken as a married couple or seen each other in nearly a month, but Johnny came over to talk about was fecal matter, and he was convinced at the time, it has changed since, but he was convinced that it was Savannah and or my friend I.O. So my first calls and texts were to Savannah and to I.O. just to clear up the matter, or after we called or before we called a cab. I cannot recall, but Savannah did not answer. Then after this whole thing went down and after he threw the phone at my face, then he starts texting us. Then she starts texting us. And this is while Rocky was in the middle of holding me, comforting me, because I was, for the first time in my long relationship of hiding the secret of what happened behind closed doors of my marriage, I was finally seeing it all crumble. I was finally seeing everything potentially come out to the public. That does not answer the question of why did you tell Savannah, do not call Rocky or Josh? That doesn't answer the question. Not even a little bit. Ms. Laws, can I take you back to the text I asked you about? Amber, yeah, sure, but I explained it, the context. No, you did not. Ms. Laws, yes, I think you have explained you were texting her because she was one of the suspects. If you like, you say Mr. Depp has changed his account, but you have just changed it. You have you not? You have just thrown her into the mix to explain these texts, have you not? Amber, since when? Ms. Laws, just now. Amber, absolutely not. I've never changed my account. Ms. Laws, all right, can I ask you to file 6, pull out, please, and go to tab 148. So the photographs, 148E. Ms. Laws, what we're looking at here, some pink on your cheek and above your eyes? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, the next one of a high resolution photographs, that is what I'm looking at? Amber, okay. Ms. Laws, because there are a large number. Who was taking all of these? Amber, I cannot remember if it was Raquel or Josh, but I assume it was Raquel. Ms. Laws, we can see that. 894.157. The lighting looks a bit different, does it not, if you compare the two photographs? Ms. Laws, the question was, the lighting looks different, does it not? Amber, yes, it appears we were in a different room. Ms. Laws, were you taking these on your phone? Amber, I'm assuming they're on my phone. Ms. Laws, you assume? Do you know? And Justice Nickel, you got there ahead of me. Do you know if it was taken on your phone? Amber, yes, they were on my phone, so I assume they were taken on that phone. I do not know how else they would be there. Ms. Laws, unless someone took them on their phone and sent them to your phone. Amber, I do not recall of that ever happening. I think they were taken on my phone. Ms. Laws, by whom? Amber, as I just said, Rocky or Josh. I cannot remember which one. Ms. Laws, was it both of them or one of them? Amber, I cannot remember which one, but I would assume Rocky, since she would be the one closer to me. Ms. Laws, moving on to 894, 163, and 165, I can take these very swiftly if you would have a look at them. Amber, okay. Whatever these show, pink on some of them, but a bit redder on the others, do they not? And Justice Nickel, Ms. Laws, you or Mr. Shorborn, whoever is making your closing submissions on the claimant's behalf, will be able to make submissions about what they show. If there is a question that you want to ask the witness, then please do. Ms. Laws, all right, can I ask you then, just to compare if you can, 894-171 to 894-173, two photographs, 894-171 and compare 894-173. Amber, yeah? These are on your phone, and it looks as if they were taken in the same room because we can see the same line on the left-hand corner of the wall. Do you agree? It looks as if it's the same room. Amber, I do. Ms. Laws, these are images on your phone. Amber, uh-huh. Ms. Laws, have you changed the coloration of those images yourself, or has anyone that you know done that? Amber, no. Ms. Laws, 194202, please. Ms. Laws, 894-202 and 894-204 are the same photograph. I think one is closer in than the other one. Can you see? They appear to be the same photograph, but one is enlarged. Amber, yes, yes. We see an abrasion or something, another distinct red mark that was not there earlier, has appeared, has it not? And Justice Nickel, just a moment. Are you asking about just below the right eye? Ms. Laws, the right eye. Yeah, that is a red mark that it's not there before, is it? Is it not? Amber, it looks like the injuries are getting more pronounced. Ms. Laws, but then they change again. Let us have a look. Let us go through 894-208, 894-210. And Justice Nickel, just a minute. 208, what was the second? Ms. Laws, 894-210. I'm just going to take you through a number of photographs. And Justice Nickel, what was the question about? Ms. Laws, there is a number of questions that the photograph applies to. I will ask one question now and show you the others. The mark has gone now. We cannot see it in these photographs. Amber, in this lighting, it does not appear to be visible. Ms. Laws, it's not on the photograph. Amber, it just not appears to be visible. Ms. Laws, but it's not so visible at all, is it? Amber, in this photograph, it does not appear to be visible. Ms. Laws, nor is it on 89212 or 894-214. We cannot see it on either of those, can we? Amber, I see it on 214. If you were talking about the one above my eye, it's just too blown out at the top of 212. And Justice Nickel, just a minute. You say it's visible in 214? Amber, yes, your lordship. Justice Nickel, all right. Ms. Laws, then at 894-216, do you claim to see any that mark that we had seen earlier on the photo? Amber, on 216? Ms. Laws, yes. Amber, yes, I do. Ms. Laws, it's not there, is it? Amber, I see it. Ms. Laws, have a look at 218. Is it there on that? Amber, yes, it is. Ms. Laws, is it there on 220? Amber, absolutely. Ms. Laws, moving forward, we have you. Is that Raquel Pennington on the next few photographs? Amber, you said moving forward. Is there a page perhaps? Ms. Laws, yes, 894-228. There was about 5 photographs, the last one being 232. Okay, and Justice Nichols, sorry, I'm just trying to find out from Ms. Heard. Are you on photograph 228? Amber, I am. And which one are you? Amber, I'm on the one on the left. And Justice Nickel, who is the other person in the photograph? Amber, Raquel Pennington. She goes by Rocky. Ms. Laws, if we move on, we go back to the photograph we saw before, 894-235. That is you in the courthouse. We got a much closer look, in fact, at 894-239. Amber, I think you said 235. Ms. Laws, I'm moving to the close-up of 894-239. There is no mark under the eye that we can see on the other photograph, is there? And Justice Nickel, are we on 239 now? Ms. Laws, 239. There is no mark on this one. Not on the others as well. But this is a close-up, so I'm going to ask you about the close-up. There is no mark under the eye that can be seen on the other photo, is there? Amber, may I check? I see my cheek is still bruised, but I do not see the same marks that were 6 days. I mean, this is 6 days later. Ms. Laws, Is that a spot on your cheek there? Amber, it looks like a mark. Miss Laws, you see, it looks as if it's in a different place altogether. Amber, it's the same, from the same bruise. I did not get bruised twice. Amber, that is a different one from the one before, correct? I have 193, the pictures that you referenced before, but 194 is something else. Ms. Laws, can you see 194 there? It's similar. Amber, no, it's different. Ms. Laws, you do not have it? Amber, 194 for me is a different paparazzi article. That's the one I can see from your bundle. 193 is in my bundle. Ms. Laws, right, so you have the same photograph, just a different pagination number. Amber, okay. Ms. Laws, I can just check that, but you have a look at where you're looking at. Okay, so they're just trying to sort out numbers. As I said, the documents were a little skewy. So, Injustice Nickel, the article is published May 29th, is it? Ms. Laws, yes. So in fact, when you look at the body of the text at the bottom of page of 184, Amber, I beg your pardon, I would like to see the same document you were looking at something seems to be slightly off with my pagination. Ms. Laws, I wonder if you can show me that file. They're showing the file. Ms. Laws, if you go to page 184, do you see that? The body of the article. So this is a photograph of you after you have it is claiming, had a 4-hour meeting with your legal team. Justice Nichols, sorry, which page are you asking specifically about? They're still trying to figure out numbers. Ms. Laws, 184, the reference at the bottom, Miss Heard, who was clasping a laptop computer, arrived at the office at around 3:30 p.m. and did not leave until about 7:30 p.m. I suggest that the meeting with your lawyer was on the Saturday, which was the 28th of May, the restraining order application being on Friday, the 27th. Do you remember that? Justice Nickel, are you able to help Miss Heard as to whether that was right or not? Amber, if it was a Saturday and someone else had confirmed the date, then I go by that, but I do not know off the top of my head. Ms. Laws, so the photograph we see, now you have the correct, Amber, I'm sorry, one more thing, Saturday, I do not know if I filed for the restraining order on that. Can someone confirm that I filed? Ms. Laws, the date of the court appearance was the 27th. Amber, thank you. Ms. Laws, this is the day after, the morning after. Does that sound right? Amber, afternoon, yes. Ms. Laws, or the afternoon in the end. Does that sound right? Amber, that sounds right. The photograph I was asking you to look at that you asked me about the date, was that page 188 at the bottom right-hand corner? Amber, yes. In fact, 187 on the bottom there, it does not appear as if you have any marks on your face at all there. Amber, I cannot tell from this photograph because it is taken by paparazzi, which shoot a long lens from a distance. If I'm out in LA, I would wear makeup with the exception of my court appearance. Ms. Laws, if you leave the Eastern Columbia building, apart from the court appearance, you're wearing makeup? Amber, that would be a very rare exception that I would not. I cannot even tell you when that would ever happen. Ms. Laws, I'm going to suggest that, in fact, whatever is shown on those photographs you have done to yourself through makeup or lighting or whatever other means, it was not an injury from Mr. Depp. Amber, I do not know. Ms. Laws, do you disagree? Amber, I disagree wholeheartedly. I do not agree this is an accurate representation of what my face did or did not look like. It's shot by paparazzi that were following me on long lens. Ms. Laws, this particular photograph shows you with nothing, does it not? Amber, I cannot tell, is what I think. Ms. Laws, all right. If it shows you with nothing, if I am right about that, it is because you had no mark or injury at all. Amber, I know what my face looked like and I know I had an injury. If I wanted the world to believe I had an injury, why wouldn't I be consistent? Ms. Laws, you were. Amber, why would I pick one day and not the other? Because only when it's convenient. Ms. Laws, if that was the case, just so I ask you why, then if we go back to the photographs just one more time and have a look at the photographs of you and Miss Pennington. Amber, the one we were looking at? Ms. Laws, the photographs we were just looking at a second ago. Trying to figure out which ones they were. Ms. Laws, were you wearing makeup in these photographs? Amber, yes. Ms. Laws, what do you say we can see on these photographs? Amber, it was nearly a week later. It is more difficult to cover up that bruise than other things. This was on the 22nd. Johnny hit me on the 21st. So that would be, Ms. Laws, a day later. Amber, a day later, and it requires a significantly more dedicated amount of touching up of your concealer in those days. Day 2 is trickiest with bruises because there is a lot of sensitivity. It's like a counterproductive to touch a bruise. So I always found that days 2 and 3 are the hardest to cover up. So this is you made up trying to cover up. Amber, I had to cover up. Ms. Laws, but you said you were failing to cover up. Amber, I'm just saying it required quite a bit of touch-up throughout the day, and I was outside. I would have had limited opportunity to apply concealer regularly as I needed to, especially on days 2, 3, and 4 of the bruise. Ms. Laws, this is the morning before you went to the lunch party, was it not? Amber, I think it was probably late morning, midday, or maybe early afternoon. I'm not quite sure. Ms. Laws, if there's anything in these photographs, it is makeup to show you look like you're injured, is it not? That is what you're trying to do? Amber, quite the opposite. I had to cover up my bruises to not look injured. It's horribly embarrassing to walk around with bruises on your face. You are asked constantly to comment on it. You are constantly asked. If other people can see it, they assume these things, and it puts you in a position of having to lie or evade answering, and quite frankly, it's humiliating. Says, were you seen by a number of people? Amber, I was. Says, at the Eastern Columbia building? Amber, I was seen by many people at Amanda's birthday party. So sorry, I had not finished the question, and then you will be able to be a bit more focused in your answer if you know what the question is. Amber, sure. So as you were seen by a number of people at the Eastern Columbia building without any injury at all, were you not? Amber, I had injuries on my face. You see that. So that was not the question. Amber, what was the question? A number of people saw you at ECB and you did not have a single mark or injury or bruise or whatever on your face between the 21st and the 27th. Amber, I did have injuries to my face. So they're all lying, are they? Amber, I'm not prepared to call anyone a liar. It's not why I'm here. I'm just here to tell the truth of what happened. I was there. Ms. Laws, my lord, if I could have a moment, I wonder if this is an appropriate moment because I have come to the end of an incident. And Justice Nicol, yes, of course. Miss Heard, you were in the middle of giving your evidence. You will remember what I said when we had a break at lunchtime. The same still applies, and you really must not talk to anyone about your evidence. Do you understand that? Amber, absolutely. And Justice Nicol, that includes anyone from the defendant's legal team or anyone else, indeed, about your evidence at all. Amber, I understand. And then they clicked off to the next day. And that's where we're going to end. So be lovely to yourselves. Have a wonderful day. I love you. I appreciate you. I think we all need to unwind our minds after listening to all of that and trying to figure out what the hell she just said. Have a great day. I'll see you guys next time.